Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is tweaking the language of its report on the flood control scandal. Early critics believe the findings are being watered down.
And the Chinese embassy condemns a Senate resolution calling out its diplomats and invokes the reciprocity principle on those who called its ambassador persona non grata. Filipino officials are not letting this pass.
And the House effectively kills President Bongbong Marcos's impeachment complaints while it gears up for ouster moves against Vice President Sara Duterte, which are very much alive.
It's politics. Siyempre may mga kaibigan niya sa loob. May negotiation yan. Ang mahalaga dyan, yung records ng Blue Ribbon Committee. Tsaka lahat ng testimonies niya.
Madali magsabi na bakit ito wala, bakit ito nandyan. Where's the evidence? Sabi ko may baseline ako di ba? Bottom line ko, hindi ko talaga i-report out yung hindi ako naniniwala.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee report on the flood control scandal has not even been formally released, and already it is fetching criticism. Today, panel chairman Senator Ping Lacson had to address speculation of a watered-down version of their findings. Mobile journal Merimon Reyes with tonight's big story.
When a draft partial Blue Ribbon Committee report was leaked last week, it revealed the recommendation of criminal charges against several officials, including 3 incumbent senators. Chis Escudero, Jinggoy Estrada, and Joey Villanueva were supposed to face plunder, malversation of public funds, direct bribery, and other charges over allegations that they received kickbacks from flood control projects. Others who were recommended charged are former Senator Bong Revilla and former Representative Zaldico and Mitch Kahayun-Uy. But that leaked report has since been revised. Instead of charges, the committee report now states that it recommended the conduct of further investigation or case buildup against the said officials. Quite a turnaround for observers. But for Blue Ribbon Committee Chair and Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson, there is no substantive changes at all to the initial draft. The upper chamber's majority bloc merely suggested tweaking the language of the report.
Bakit yung language? Do they find it offensive?
Well, ganito no, yung connotation, halimbawa, do sa draft na initially routed, merong word doon na charge, no? Recommended to be charged. Sa layman, pag sinabing charge, para nasa korte na. Hindi naman namin pwedeng i-recommend sa court na i-charge sa court kasi only the DOJ and the Ombudsman are authorized to file the information for any person to be charged before the court. Diba? So kinorek lang namin yon. Ito yung nagtumama sa sensitivity ng ibang mga kasama namin na pag-charge. Pakisipin ng mga tao, charge na sa korte.
Despite the changes in the initial committee report, Lacson maintained that the recommendation of his panel did not weaken at all. The senator likewise denied that the revisions were made because of supposed discontent in the minority bloc or due to the reported foiled coup against Senate President Tito Soto. Escudero, Estrada, and Villanueva belong to the Senate opposition.
Nothing to do with the supposed coup against SP?
Wala.
Yung pag-change ng language?
Ano yun? Sa majority pa lang yun. My own colleagues in the majority, nagsuggest sila, baka naman pwedeng isopen na hindi masacrifice yung intent. Hindi mababago yung substance. Kasi sabi ko may baseline ako di ba? Bottom line ko, hindi ko talaga i-report out yung hindi ako naniniwala.
The revised Senate Blue Ribbon report has drawn mixed reactions. Ombudsman Boying Remulla attributed it to politics, but he still believes Lacson did a great job with the flood control scandal probe and that the committee's findings would still be helpful in going after those implicated in the mess.
It's politics. Ano na yan What is acceptable to all or to most is the most important thing. Kasi nga, nagkakapersonalan, siyempre may mga kaibigan niya sa loob na pipirma, wag lang nalagay yung pangalan. Gano'n yan. May negotiation yan. May compromise yan. Pero, at least, yung pagkapangalan sa kanila tsaka yung records intact. Ang mahalaga dyan, yung records ng Blue Ribbon Committee tsaka lahat ng testimonies niya. Yun ang mahalaga. Yung report niya kasi, anticlimactic yan Kung ano alam natin, yun na yun
Blue Ribbon hearing other critics have also accused the BRC report of bias. Lacson insists his committee based its report on evidence presented during the hearings and challenged critics to submit proof if they believe otherwise.
Kung meron silang ganong suggestion, mag-present sila ng ebidensya. No? Madali magsabi na bakit ito wala, bakit ito nandyan. Where's the evidence? They are members of the committee. Tumulong sila, hindi sila, instead na mag-criticize lang, tumulong na lang.
The revised Blue Ribbon report has not reached the minority yet, but Lacson is hopeful the measure would secure at least 11 signatures, enough to send it to plenary for discussion. Aside from charges, the report also holds recommendations for legislation and other measures to prevent further corruption in government projects. Kapatid Mobile journalist Mary Mon Reyes, we are One News.
In other news, Philippine Coast Guard Commodore J. Tariela is not saying sorry over his use of Chinese President Xi Jinping's caricature in a presentation. Yesterday, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano insisted that the PCG spokesman for the West Philippine Sea should apologize for the unflattering images of the Chinese leader. Cayetano likewise had an exchange with Senator Kiko Pangilinan ahead of the Senate's adoption of Senate Resolution number 256. The resolution basically denounces recent statements by the Chinese embassy in Manila against Filipino government officials. Cayetano argued that the resolution should not be adopted if it supports Tariela's actions and statements. In an interview on True FM's Ted Filon and DJ Chacha, Tariela once again defended his actions.
I find it very weird, no? Bakit ako magsusorry? Kasi nga, ang tanong ko dyan, yung caricature ba na ginawa ko na yon is more than enough to compensate us dun sa harassment ng Chinese Coast Guard sa mangingisda, against the Philippine Coast Guard vessel, sa mga nakaraang taong pagharang nila sa resupply mission. My question is, when was the last time that Senator Cayetano stood up at sinabihan niya Chinese embassy, Chinese government, mag-apologize kayo sa Pilipinas?
In the end, the Senate adopted Resolution 256 on Monday. However, it fell short of the proposal to declare Chinese diplomats persona non grata.
For its part, the Chinese embassy rejected the Senate resolution. Embassy spokesperson Chi Lingpeng said the upper chamber's motion misrepresents facts, misleads the public, and amounts to political maneuver by some lawmakers. Chi also criticized officials for supporting Tariela, who it accuses of attacking China's leader. He warned that such actions undermine diplomatic norms and efforts to improve relations between Beijing and Manila. Senate President Tito Soto has issued a statement which in part reads, "It seems like the spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in the Philippines wanted to silence this august chamber by calling us hypocrites and ignorant by issuing our stand through this resolution." Soto added that by calling senators' move a political stunt, the Chinese spokesperson seems to know little about how diplomacy works. Meantime, the Chinese embassy has also barred several Philippine local officials from entering their country, including Hong Kong and Macau. This is in response to resolutions adopted by the Municipal Council of Kalayaan in Palawan last January, declaring the Chinese ambassador persona non grata. And that was the time Chinese diplomats started criticizing Philippine officials, including Tariela, over remarks on maritime matters.
Another showdown over the West Philippine Sea. Retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio has accepted Senator Rodante Marcoleta's challenge to a debate. We have Justice Carpio now to talk about this and more issues. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome back to the Big Story.
Good evening. Good evening to our viewers.
Justice Carpio, there has been an appeal from Senator Lacson not to bite the bait, appealing that a debate with Senator Marcoleta may just affect those now residing in Kalayaan, for instance.
Well, that's part of freedom of expression. I don't think it will affect those residing in Kalayaan. This is a debate between two Filipinos. One is saying that there is no such thing as a West Philippine Sea. I disagree with that. There is a West Philippine Sea under Philippine law. So it's as simple as that. Is there a West Philippine Sea under Philippine law or not? So the the people should know, and especially the people in Kalayaan. I don't think they will. They are in the forefront of this issue, and they have to be assured by the nation that they are protected. And if a senator says there is no such thing as West Philippine Sea, parang binura mo rin sila. So we have to assure them that there is a West Philippine Sea, and the West Philippine Sea is going to be protected because under the Constitution, we have to protect our maritime zones, especially our exclusive economic zone.
Jay Batong Bakal has also said that it could be a futile exercise because as a lawmaker, Senator Marcoleta should know better.
Well, he should know better. And how do you show that? By engaging him in a discussion that there is such a thing as a West Philippine Sea under Philippine law. It's there in the law. And the fact that the Pag-asa Island, the islands of the Calayan Island Group, some of them are outside the exclusive economic zone doesn't mean that we have no claim there or it is no longer ours because it's outside the exclusive economic zone. No, these are different concepts. We can still have a territory, an island territory beyond our exclusive economic zone. This has to be explained to people. If you allow Senator Marcoleta to have the last say on this, the people will think he is correct. It has to be corrected.
We do understand. Now, the terms of the debate, have you any...
Recommendation is the topic of the debate will be, is there legally a West Philippine Sea under Philippine law? And second, if there is, are the maritime features of the Calayan Island Group part of the West Philippine Sea? Because it's saying there is no such thing as a West Philippine Sea. So we have to explain to the people, there is a West Philippine Sea. In fact, it's in the law.
And where and when will this debate happen?
Well, I really don't know because he challenged us to a debate publicly, and I replied publicly, and so far I have not heard anything from him.
Your thoughts, Justice Carpio, on the fact that a Senate resolution had to be passed over this? Do you think that undermines what we should already know, na merong West Philippine Sea, and of course the arbitral award that invalidates the 9-dash line of China?
Well, the award is there. It will not go away no matter what anyone says. The fact that there is a West Philippine Sea is there. It will not also go away. It's already in our statute books. But the people need to know why and why the statements of Senator Marcoleta are not correct. I mean, they are entitled to know.
Well, part of that resolution is, of course, the tit for tat, and it's been going on for over a week now between the Chinese embassy in Manila officials and their Facebook account, as well as our officials. Of course, it all started with Commodore Tariela. What were your thoughts on that, Justice? I just wanted to get your assessment.
Well, you cannot apply the standards in China to the Philippines because we have freedom of expression. There's no freedom of expression in China. So it's a completely different legal environment there. There, if you criticize the President Xi, you go to jail right away. That's not the case here. So the Chinese would want that kind of conduct apply also to Filipinos. No, we don't recognize that. We have our own laws, and they ought to respect, because under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, the diplomats from other countries must respect internal laws of the Philippines.
Justice, when it comes to the Kalayaan Island Group, how important and crucial is the continued presence of the Philippines? We already established a municipality there. And does that carry more weight than, let's say, historical discovery of the island?
Well, the first to discover the island, of course, were the Filipinos living there in Palawan because it's very near. And the first map showing that the Spratlys belong to any country is our own map, the 1734 Pedro Murillo Velarde map. That is the first official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime, 1734, and it shows there already the Spratlys called Los Baos de Paragua, the shoals of Paragua, Paragua being the Spanish name for Palawan. There is no earlier map from Vietnam, from Malaysia, or from China showing that the Spratlys belong to them. We have the oldest map. And not only one, but several. 1808, Carta General del Archipelago Filipino, it's there. 1875. The first map that China can produce showing that they claim the Spratlys and the Scarborough Shoal is their 1947 map. 1947, that's after World War II. And when they claim it, they recognize that it's also claimed by the Philippines and by the French in Indochina because France claimed it in 1933. I'm referring to the Spratlys. But we claim it much, much earlier, centuries earlier, in 1734. That's why I've been urging our government to bring this map to challenge China, Vietnam, and Malaysia to submit the territorial dispute to arbitration. Because we cannot lose in an arbitration because we have all the documents, we have all the treaties in our favor. I don't know why our government is not doing it.
Well, I think can you help us understand this principle of res nullius? And supposedly that's what that principle is in line with international law, and that is the principle of our ownership also of the Kalayaan Island Group. Justice.
Res nullius means a property that is not claimed by anyone or a land that is not claimed by any state, res nullius. So we were the first to claim it in 1734. In 1734, no other country claimed the Spratlys. We claimed it. We put it in the map of 1734, the first official map of Philippine territory. You can see there Panacot, that's Scarborough Shoal. You can see there Los Baos de Paragua, that's the Spratlys. And that was followed by the 1808 Carta General del Archipelago Filipino, the second official map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime. And that was again reiterated in the 1875 Carta General del Archipelago Filipino, the most complete and detailed map of Philippine territory during the Spanish regime, and the last one that the Spaniards issued. And the Americans, when they came here, they found that map to be so detailed and so complete that they adopted it in 3 editions. And unfortunately, we don't have an original print of this map. Our public libraries and public museums don't have a copy of this map, the 1875, which is really the map that the Americans recognize as the Philippine archipelago, and also the map that the Spaniards recognize as the Philippine archipelago. So 2 colonial powers of the Philippines, spanning 381 years, agree that this is the map of the Philippine archipelago.
Justice,
That 1875 Carta General.
going back to what you said, you called for an international arbitration. Which agency in government should take the lead? Is it the DFA?
Yes, the DFA should take the lead. Of course, they have to be supported by the OSG because that's OSG is the principal counsel of the government, and that's exactly what happened in the arbitration of The Hague. No, it was initiated by former Secretary Albert De Rosario, but supported by the OSG. But at the end of the day, it's really the president who will decide whether to file that arbitration or not. And so far, we don't hear anything from the president.
Could it be because we are hosting the ASEAN and they don't want to rock the boat?
Well, they could have called it much earlier. It could have been called much earlier. I don't think that it has anything to do with ASEAN. It's a matter of political will. Do we want to bring China to arbitration? Because the last time we did, we won overwhelmingly. And when we filed that, people were saying, why are you suing China? You cannot win against a nuclear armed state. It's a bigger country, richer country than the Philippines. But we won. And I think we will win again this time because we have all the documents, the maps, we have the oldest historical maps supporting our claim.
What would you say as some have viewed the attitude of the DFA as somehow being old school? In fact, a letter of the Foreign Affairs Secretary to Senator Ontiveros seemed to chastise the tit-for-tat that's been happening as limiting the diplomatic space with which they can maneuver in talking to China.
Well, filing an arbitration is part of diplomacy. It's one of the tool sets of a diplomat. You have negotiation, mediation, and finally you go to arbitration. But some of our diplomats are not too comfortable with arbitration because it involves a legal case, and many of them are not lawyers. But that is really part of a toolkit of a diplomat.
So
that's your last resort.
This would be before UNCLOS again? Which body?
No, this will be for the ICJ because UNCLOS, there is a compulsory dispute settlement mechanism, but that involves only maritime disputes. This is a territorial dispute, and if we file before the ICJ will ask China, do you agree to submit yourself to arbitration? So if China will not agree, then the case will not move forward because it requires the consent of the parties.
Justice, what are your thoughts on a code of conduct? Some are optimistic that one could be created as we host the ASEAN summit. But is that feasible right now, Justice? And under what conditions can it actually protect our interests as a nation?
Well, I think the code of conduct is dead in the water because we will not sign a code of conduct unless it includes the arbitral award, and China will never agree. And Vietnam will not sign a code of conduct unless the paracels are included. We will not sign a code of conduct unless the Scarborough Shoal is included. And it's a trap because if we sign the code of conduct, that means that all other countries cannot build anymore. But China has built so much already, and that will legitimize what China has built. So that's why it's important that we include the arbitral award there. Otherwise, we would be handcuffing ourselves because the code of conduct will say nobody will build new structures, but China's built everything and we have not. And that will actually legitimize all what China has built, which are all illegal because they were built on our exclusive economic zone or on our territory.
Going back to, taking this territorial dispute to the ICJ, Justice Scorpio, how would that look like? Because we'd have to contend with not just China, but also Malaysia, Vietnam, and all the other countries that are laying claim to some parts of the Spratly Islands. We're not doing it as a whole, or do you suggest doing just the part that's near us or the whole thing?
Well, we can challenge everybody, Vietnam, Malaysia, and China. And, among ASEAN countries, arbitration on territorial disputes has been very common. Malaysia and Singapore agreed to arbitrate on who has sovereignty over Pedra Blanca. Malaysia and Indonesia agreed to submit to arbitration was sovereignty over Sipadan and Ligatan. I mean, this is common. This is usual among ASEAN countries. So let's move in that direction. At least among Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines, we can submit this to arbitration. And we are left only with one country who's opposing us if we win in that arbitration. And I think we will win because we have the oldest title.
Why
But,
do you
but
Go
if
ahead.
China does not wish to submit, then
Then we have narrowed the dispute to between China and the Philippines. And that's a big improvement.
And if you were to take your best guess, Justice Carpio, why do you think no one has taken the Spratly issue to arbitration? At least it would seem that the Marcos administration has wholly embraced, siding with international law and following the rules-based international order. Why do you think?
Well, first of all, it requires a lot of work. It requires a new outlook, a new way of looking at things, because the diplomats would always like to negotiate and discuss, but this one is litigation, actually.
and the time has come, given the atmosphere prevailing today.
Yeah, it has come because this has been outstanding for quite a long time, and we just follow our neighbors. They agreed to submit to arbitration their territorial disputes. Why couldn't we?
Well, just have to deal with the debate first between you and Senator Marcoleta. What if he won't respond?
I have not received any response.
So kung wala po, paano?
Well, I cannot debate with myself only.
Perhaps, educating those who are in their camp or their, how would you call it, followers.
Yeah, I regularly...
With a lecture or some...
Yeah, I regularly give lectures on Philippine Island territories in the US-Philippine Sea. I do that for the lawyers. I can invite them if they want.
Meron deadline ba? Shall we give them a deadline, Justice? To respond to your acceptance?
Well, I would rather not give a deadline because I really want this discussed so the public will know.
And like in any debate, will there be,
A mediator?
mediator,
course,
time
yeah.
limits, and all that? Will it be conducted? Go ahead,
of
Senator.
course.
Justice.
There has to be a moderator. There will be a time limit for you to deliver your main arguments. You can rebut. That has to be organized that way. Otherwise, it will be chaos.
Well, I think we will have a blockbuster just in case it pushes through.
Abangan.
Abangan. Thank you so much for talking to us. That was retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. Thank you so much.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, House lawmakers have given President Bongbong Marcos protection from impeachment for another year. That's while they are just getting started on the complaints against Vice President Duterte. That and more stories are still ahead. The Big Story will be right back. Keep it here on One News.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos has invited U.S. President Donald Trump to attend the ASEAN Summit. That's according to Ambassador Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez. The invitation was extended during Mr. Marcos's White House visit in July last year. But there's no commitment yet from Trump since the U.S. midterm elections are also happening around the same time as the summit. The Philippines ASEAN chair this year and will be... The Philippines is chairing the ASEAN Summit this year and will be hosting events in May and November. Before that, Marcos will visit New York from March 8 to 11 to attend the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. He will also deliver a message in the special session of the United Nations General Assembly and will meet with UN officials. Now let's discuss this and more with Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Babe Romualdez. Good evening to you, Ambassador.
Hi, good evening to all of you.
Let's discuss first the March visit of the President to New York. What, aside from, of course, addressing the Commission on the Status of Women, what are the other bilateral objectives are planned?
Well, basically, the president is traveling to New York. This has been long planned. We just postponed it a couple of times because of scheduling. But this is an opportune time for the president to be able to help in the campaign for us for a seat in the Security Council. There's the elections this year for next year's seat. This is a seat that is available to countries like the Philippines, and we are running for that position for a period of 1 year.
How about tariffs? Will there be an effort to further reduce the tariffs?
Well, no, the tariffs, this is an ongoing, I wouldn't even want to call it negotiations. We have been in discussion with the USTR, the United States Trade Representative, together with our Undersecretary, Alan Gepti. And we've had a number of exemptions already that we've been able to achieve. And we're, I think, in the process of just finalizing some other areas where we can also have not only exemptions, but perhaps to have a reduced tariff. But all of this is work in progress.
There is also this invitation to the president to be part of that Board of Peace.
Yes.
Do you recommend? What is your recommendation to the president?
Well, basically, this Board of Peace, which was actually planned by President Trump, before I left Washington, I was given the letter, a personal letter written, President Trump's letter to President Marcos, which they asked me to deliver to him. And it's an invitation, a formal invitation for President Marcos to be a member of the Board of Peace. I think there were quite a number of countries from Asia that were invited. I think Thailand, Indonesia, that have already joined in, and I can't remember the other two. I think Malaysia is one of them. So, but anyway, bottom line is that we're recommending that we will consider it if it's really just a question of just us being able to find a way to be able to contribute to some kind of a peace effort in the Gaza Strip, which is essentially what this Board of the Peace of President Trump is all about.
But will it run counter to what the UN is already doing?
Well, not necessarily, because this is, I think, more of the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and it is, from what we're told, sanctioned by the United Nations. So there's really no harm. Of course, we've made it clear that I don't think we'll be able to put up the $1 billion to be a permanent member of the Board of Peace, but we are prepared to contribute in some form or another to be able to help in really achieving some form of peace in the Gaza Strip.
Speaking of peace, Ambassador Romualdez, we are the ASEAN chair for the year. And of course, talks are happening in a few months, in May and again in November. What do you think are the chances that President Trump will be able to attend? And is the U.S. willing to support, the Philippines as the chairman's initiatives? Of course, the Code of Conduct, peace in Myanmar, and peace maybe in the Thai border as well.
Well, yes. As you mentioned in your report, President Marcos invited him informally when he met with President Trump last July last year at the Oval Office, and President Trump said, "I will be there." But of course, it's just an informal invitation. But we will formally be inviting him. I think the the ASEAN Business Council is also very eager to have President Trump attend the summit here in Manila in November. It's a question of timing. It's because, as you had also made in your report, there are the midterm elections in the United States. So that will be, of course, the timing is very important on when and what the meeting will be like in terms of the summit and having the heads of state from the ASEAN region and having President Trump here at the same time.
Ambassador, when President Marcos visits New York this March, will he get a chance to meet with President Trump in Washington? Will they have a chance to have another sit down? Last year, I remember they had an interesting discussion. President Trump even called him a tough negotiator when they were discussing the tariffs.
Well, actually, President Trump invited President Marcos to go to Washington this February, February 19th. That will be almost impossible for President Marcos to make it due to the conflict of schedule. But we don't know whether there will be an opportunity in New York, but more likely there will be none because this is a very short trip for the president.
Okay, I also wanted to get an update, Ambassador, on the critical minerals deal. The Philippines did sign a memorandum of understanding, but there is still no decision yet on whether we will officially join the trading bloc. What's holding us back in that decision-making process?
Well, I think it has to do a lot with the kind of commitments that we have to make. What's important for us is that we are part of that memorandum agreement that we have with the United States, with 9 other countries. And we would like to develop our critical minerals industry. And a component of that agreement is that there will be investments that will be coming in, especially in the processing of these minerals. So we'll wait and see on how this thing goes. But I think it was very it's a good opportunity for us to be able to be included as part of the supply chain for the United States on the critical minerals.
Well, I know it's early days yet, but what are the chances of actually seeing, actual figures, actual numbers, or some hard data on investors, investments? What do you think, Ambassador? Is this going to come to fruition?
Well, definitely, our critical minerals have been, like for instance, nickel. 90% of our nickel is exported to China because they have more or less cornered the market, and they in fact sometimes even dictate the price because they've been able to buy almost everything the production that we have. So we will be able to now have some investments in production. There is a lot of interest coming from not only American companies, but other companies in Europe or in Canada, Canadian companies that are looking into it, or even Australian mining companies. So this will give us an opportunity to upgrade our mining industry and be able to have a better market share.
Yeah, so
that involves such high capitalization.
Yes, absolutely.
Ambassador, I'd like to go back to our campaign to have a seat in the Security Council. What are our chances?
We have very good chances. We are actually pitted against Kazakhstan, and I think we have a very good chance of being able to get the seat at the Security Council. We've had the commitments from countries, but of course, in any kind of election like this, it's really a question of consistently moving around. Our foreign minister was in New York not too long ago, and of course we have our former Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Enrique Manalo, who's now our permanent representative at the UN. He's been going around, and he knows most of the representatives of countries in the United Nations. That's the reason why we were very eager to have him there as soon as possible. Precisely, we have because of this opportunity for us to be part of the UN Security Council.
Going back to
Go ahead.
to the economy, I just wanted to check in on the Luzon Economic Corridor. Last year, this was what we were all raving about. I just wanted to know if you have any updates on any activities and investments in that area.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we had a lot of discussion about that today at the US-Philippine Society meetings. There is already a lot of investments that are coming in, most especially coming from Japan. So I think that project is fast moving, and hopefully within the next 3 to 5 years, we will see really significant progress in that program that the United States is actually took the lead on.
Okay, and just today, Ambassador, you told reporters that you are seeing signs of cooperation from China despite the ongoing disputes that we have on the West Philippine Sea. Talk us through that, Ambassador. Why do you think that there are signs of cooperation?
Well, not signs of cooperation, but we're feeling that I think there's an opportunity for us precisely because we are now the chair of the ASEAN summit here in Manila. So there's an opportunity for us to be able to have some discussions with China, and that we have a continuing bilateral meetings with them on issues pertaining to the West Philippine Sea. But we'd like to be able to have the whole total relationship with China, especially in the economic trade. So we're looking into the possibility of having perhaps our foreign minister meet the foreign minister of China to begin with, since there will be a chance to do so anyway during the summit here in Manila.
And I wanted to ask, this is on a more personal note, Ambassador. Do you know the new Chinese ambassador to the Philippines? So he did come from Washington as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually.
What
yes,
can you tell us about him?
Well, actually, he's very adept he's a career officer of the Ministry of China, and to be honest about it, I think that because he has a different outlook on how these things, how we will proceed with our relationship with China. Again, that's an opportunity as far as I can see. I met him because he was the deputy chief of mission in Washington, D.C. For quite a number of years, actually.
How would you describe his outlook, Ambassador?
Well, he seems to me pragmatic. Our deputy chief of mission, my deputy chief of mission in Washington, actually had a lot of opportunities to have an described to me as this the new ambassador here now is probably more adept to what I think is the whole relationship that we have with China, not just simply on issues like the West Philippine Sea.
There's just a big brouhaha now between Philippine officials and the Chinese embassy. So, what's your diplomatic advice?
Well, in the diplomatic world, we always say that it's better to sit down and have a serious discussion rather than have pronouncements made through social media or in the media, because that will only heighten the conflict even more. That's what I'm getting from our Department of Foreign Affairs, of course. But understandably, of course, whenever you have this kind of interaction between two opposing countries, emotions can come into the picture, and I think we're just hoping that these emotions will start to simmer down a little bit so that we can be a little more pragmatic in our approach. As I said, and everybody knows this, that China will always be there. China will be our neighbor, and it's an economic power now. And if you've got countries like the United States, countries in Europe, and now Canada is reaching out to China, I don't see any reason why we should not have the same kind of mindset, that we should try to sit down, even if our differences will probably never jibe, because their claims will never be acceptable to us. But there are other areas where we can work with them, especially in the area of alternative energy and climate change, because the United States is pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, and so we have only one country now that is leading the world in climate change, and that's China.
Okay, and of course, the Balikatan exercises are coming up. We've just gotten information on the media registry, Ambassador. And the U.S. is also going to be providing Cessna 208Bs and King Air 360 aircraft for the Philippines to be used for surveillance. Do you know anything about that deal?
Yes, what we're actually, I think I know, I'm not sure whether I mentioned it today, but the U.S. Senate just approved a 2.5 billion appropriation for the Philippines. This will, of course, go to the U.S. Congress, where the Congress will approve the amounts that will be, or appropriate the amount. The approval was coming from the U.S. Congress on the total of the U.S. Senate for the whole amount, which is $500 million a year. Part of that is going to go to many of these hardware that we're getting from the United States. This is for the modernization of our armed forces.
All right, we thank you so much for your time, Ambassador. How long are you here for in Manila?
Well, we have a strategic dialogue with the United States. We're hosting it here next week. We have another event that will be also working with the United States. So I'll probably be here for another 10 to 15 days.
Great. That means we have our opportunity to have you once again on the program.
Wow. I'm always at your service, Ces. Thank you very much.
We thank you so much,
Thank you
Ambassador Romualdez, for your time.
Have a good evening.
Now on to another story. The House of Representatives has officially junked 2 impeachment complaints against President Bongbong Marcos with a whopping vote of 284 yeses, 8 noes, and 4 abstentions. The dismissal activates the 1-year bar rule, meaning no new impeachment complaint against the president can be filed until January 26, 2027. The House Justice Committee earlier found that the complaints were sufficient in form but not in substance. The decision was backed by the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas through Representative Javi Benitez, while Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Co, one of the complaint's endorsers, voiced opposition.
We stand firmly with President Marcos as he continues this work. But, Mr. Speaker, I believe this moment calls for more than a statement of support. It calls for a statement of direction. Stability is not the enemy of progress. Stability is its precondition.
Marami pong arguments ang dineliver on the floor na pinaliwanag sa Committee on Justice na sufficient in form and substance yung Maza et al. Impeachment complaint. Repeatedly, ngunit hindi po ito direktang sinasagot.
The committee report did not include the series of voting done before there was an actual count of votes on the consideration of the authenticity of the annexes to the impeachment complaints. There were 3 rounds of voting done by the committee, and this must be included in the committee report as a matter of fact.
Still at the lower chamber, all 3 impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte are now with the Office of Speaker Boji D. The Office of the Secretary General confirmed that the 3rd complaint, filed by a group of clergy, civil society leaders, and legal practitioners, was transmitted Monday night after meeting the requirements for referral. The first 2 complaints were filed by the Makabayan Bloc and civil society organizations. And so far, there is no move to fast-track the ouster moves against Duterte. That's what House Justice Committee member Congressman Terry Redon told our sister program Storycon this afternoon.
We are on our 2nd session day from yesterday, so I think we have until around the first week of March para dun sa 10th day po ng actual referral to the House plenary ng mga impeachment complaints po na ito.
Justice. The House plenary?
Kailangan mo kasi may lagay sa order of business ng House plenary. Opo, ito pong kay VP Sara, and then to be referred to the House Committee on Justice. So the 10th day would fall around the first week of March. So yun po inaantay po ng plenaryo.
We're pausing for another breather, but right after that, the palace puts forth 21 priority bills before Congress, which include measures scrapping travel taxes and political dynasties. The details when the big story returns. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the big story. Former House Speaker Jose de Venecia Jr. has died today at the age of 89. His family confirmed the news with a tribute on his legacy. Fondly known as JDV or Manang Joe, de Venecia served 7 terms in the House of Representatives. He was the longest-serving speaker in post-war Congress, keeping the post for 5 terms. JDV was the architect of the Rainbow Coalition, an alliance that united diverse political parties, as well as being an author of landmark laws, including the Basis Conversion and Development Act, the Build, Operate, Transfer Law, and the Philippine Economic Zone Act. For former Speaker Martin Romualdez, the lower chamber became a workshop of reforms and a sanctuary of consensus under de Venecia's steady hand. Senator Mig Zubiri said he learned how to be a consensus builder through JDV's style of listening first before deciding. Senator Loren Legarda attested that Manong Jo was instrumental in her gunning for the upper chamber. But what she remembers most were his sincere words of encouragement and guidance. Senator Joel Villanueva, on the other hand, said JDV was like a father when he was still a neophyte lawmaker. They had political differences, but Villanueva said that did not get in the way of de Venecia being gracious to members of the minority. In Dagupan City, where de Venecia was born, flags are now flying at half-staff. Mayor Belen Fernandez said this is a tribute to their kababayan whose legacy lives in the city he dearly loved.
And in other news, President Bongbong Marcos has approved 21 priority bills. These were presented during the 3rd Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC meeting of the 20th Congress. Also on the priority list are bills expanding protections against online sexual abuse of children, an anti-disinformation measure, and proposals governing BARM elections. Malacanang is eyeing passage of all these measures before June. House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos earlier filed a bill seeking to scrap the travel tax, which currently stands at 1,620 pesos for economy class passengers and 2,700 pesos for first-class travelers leaving the country. Also presented to the LEDAC are the Party List System Reform Act, the Citizen Access and Disclosure of Expenditures for National Accountability or CADENA Act, and the Independent People's Commission Act. And as for the anti-political dynasty bill, which is also considered a priority, President Marcos is open to suggestions.
And meantime, here are the other stories making headlines this Tuesday, February 10. ML Party List Representative Laila de Lima says she will support former Vice President and now Naga City Mayor Leni Robredo if she decides to run in the 2028 presidential elections. The lawmaker described Robredo as the opposition's most winnable candidate. Robredo has repeatedly said she will focus on local governance. Support for Robredo is also coming from outside politics, with actress Nadine Lustre ready to back the former VP again. Lustre made the statement as she joined De Lima earlier today for the filing of the proposed Animal Welfare Enforcement Bill and the Gulay para sa Kalusugan at Kalikasan Bill.
For me, she is really the best. You know, she's really the best candidate for presidency. So,
but we heard po kasi local po yung gusto niya talaga, or their efforts po to convince her to run for president sa Venecia.
Well, that's up to her decision. You know, obviously we respect that. But
sometimes the best presidents are the ones who don't want to run. No?
Yeah, and sometimes the best presidents are those that don't want to run. So we'll see.
Now, the next few months will be exciting. That's according to Ombudsman Boying Remulla as his office gears up for a big push on corruption cases that he says are now ripening. Remulla said investigators are strengthening and organizing evidence to ensure cases are properly presented once filed. And finally, Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen says there is nothing abnormal in same-sex relationships. That line anchors a new Supreme Court ruling recognizing same-sex couples as co-owners of properties they acquire together. In a decision promulgated on February 5, the Supreme Court ruled that partners who live together may fall under Article 148 of the Family Code, provided there is proof of actual contribution. In his concurrent opinion, Leonen said, quote, "To be different is not to be abnormal. A same-sex relationship is a normal relationship and therefore should be covered by Article 148 of the Family Code. Otherwise, we render legally invisible some forms of legitimate, intimate relationships. All right, and that's all the time that we have tonight. That's it for The Big Story this Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.